I saw this picture on the internet, and I sent it around to a few people. There's a picture of that new satellite they sent out by Saturn, and it is exploring the rings, and it looks through two rings, and you see this tiny little dot. You just can barely see it, and that's Earth.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So I just sent it with the caption, perspective.
Yes, yes, exactly. Like a grain of sand.
You know, everyone's thinking that what they're thinking and their lives is somehow a big deal. But put it in perspective.
Yeah.
You know, you're a dust speck living on a dust speck. In the middle of nowhere. It's funny how it seems like it's a big deal.
We're just stardust.
Yeah, well, it's just the perspective is lost, you see. You think nothing is something. And it is odd. It's an odd situation we find ourselves in. Fortunately, it only lasts for a lifetime.
Or several lifetimes.
But, as the case may be. But only one at a time.
Right. One at a time.
Like waves, it could repeat itself. But, yeah. So it's important to have some perspective that maybe the things that you think are a very big deal are not such a big deal after all. You see? Because, you know, let's say you get dropped off at the airport and your friend's in the parking lot and sees the plane take off and he waves, and you can see him there for a moment. And then he gets further and further away. You can't see him anymore. You can't make him out at all. Everything disappears. And then, let's say that plane was more than a plane, and it was a spaceship. Then you see the planet, a beautiful planet, blue, with clouds. And you get further and further away, and all you can make out is a pale blue dot. Then you get further away, and you can't even make that out. It's all gone. It's nothing. You don't have to get that far away for it to be nothing. So that's the news I have for you today. All this is nothing. So don't sweat it. It's okay. It's okay. You can enjoy it for what it is. So remember that small pale blue dot. And remember that there's your perspective on this whole thing. We're living like this in the world of me. It's like a Disneyland ride. And then it passes. But this is just what you can see through this body-mind. In fact, you came from everything, and you'll be returning to everything. But while you think that nothing is everything, it will be difficult to know this. All of these experiences in life, they don't amount to much. Because you're dealing with the experience of a dust speck living on a dust speck. It's easy to see it when you're looking at an ant colony. When you're looking at that trail of ants, and you watch them carefully and you see one of them's carrying a twig, the other one's doing this, the other one's kind of mopey, the other one's kind of aggressive, and they're just doing their thing. And you can tell that none of it's important. But when your vision is like this, and you think you're one of those ants, then all of a sudden, you're an important ant. And the things that you're doing mean something. And the way that you're doing it is very important. And it should be this way and not that way. And it just goes on. So, take this life the way you take your dreams at night. You know, they might be interesting. They might be difficult even. They might be fun. But when you wake up, you know it was just a dream. You see? It's okay. So, enjoy it as best you can.
I think that must be why Papaji named his book Nothing Ever Happened.
Yes. It's true, you know. It's true. I haven't read that book, but it's true.
It's good.
You know, it's easy to see when you're watching a movie or, you know, a television show. You know, once the lights come on in the theater, you might have enjoyed the movie, but you know nothing ever happened. James Bond's car is okay. It didn't really get destroyed. All these things never really happened, but they were entertaining while it was going on. And so it's like that with this life. That's fine. Even these talks aren't happening. Nothing's happening.
This is my favorite dream, though.
You like these episodes. Well, that's why you're here, you see. So that's great. Enjoy it. I feel that it was kind of an ethic with me. It's like, well, I really want to know what's going on here. What's really going on? And because it just felt to me like, if I didn't know what was going on, what did I know? You know, what did I know about anything? So that was kind of a mission of mine, to figure it out. No, I thought I could figure it out, which was not correct. But as it turns out, you can know it. It's not something that's understood, it's something that's known, you see. And that does bring about a different kind of just existence. You see, because the stresses that used to be common just don't arise anymore. So it's good for that. It's a nice relief. You see the stress people go through all over the place. Everywhere you go, you can see it in people's faces. And I just see it in snapshots of people, you know, as you can see. It's not easy being me. It's not easy thinking of yourself as separate from God or separate from everything. You're just you. And it's a silly thing to think, right? You know, there is this phenomenon going on. There is a body-mind. There are thoughts, there are feelings, there are things that appear to be happening, but they're not what's going on. They're not what's actually going on. They're just an appearance. So why suffer?
So, Ananta, what do you think? I mean, what is really the root of this whole need to put so much importance into things, or thinking everything's so significant in life? I mean, is it just the misidentification? Is that the root of it?
Yeah, that's what you see. So
there's a driver. Like what is this driver? What is this driver anyway?
Surviving driver, or avoidance of pain. You know,
well, I mean,
suffering.
there's a thing I call old momentum. So there's a way that this has been played for generations, forever.
Yeah.
And it has at this point a force of its own. Like, you don't have to do anything, and it takes over because it's such a strong embedded force. This
You mean not inherited, but like
Like the
programmed
organism.
or learned?
both.
Yeah.
It's also inherited.
Isn't it?
It's in your genes. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, this is the way it's been going on. So it's like already etched in the CD before you even had a player for it. You know, and then it's just set up that way automatically, and it's a part of the reason that this species survives. You see? So if there were a species which just felt they weren't important, then why would they go kill another animal to survive? They'd just sit back and die. They wouldn't care because they would know it's not important. We don't hear about those species because they're not here anymore. They didn't survive long enough to even be a species. You see, they just cooked away. So it's part of the driver to keep it going. So it's like you have a film projector. You have the inertia of that film moving through and creating the image and this thing that looks real. Okay? That is already set in motion. It's already set up and it's working its thing. And it's a part of the whole thing. Like, you don't get a movie without that. So it's an inherited part energetically of what's supposed to happen. So even if the so-called enlightenment happens, even if there's just suddenly a complete, acceptance of everything and a detachment from the sense of separation, even if that happens, one still takes care of themselves. One still does
Right.
things they still eat.
But so the need for survival or to keep
Propagation.
propagation.
Yeah.
We're looking- but that's more from the, that's, as you say, instinctual, that's more
Biology.
the working mind.
Yes.
Working ego. But that's not necessarily to do with thinking mind, which
No.
has puts so much significance into things that have no significance.
Well, it just depends on how the brain is, you see. So you know, my cat doesn't have it's such an elaborate thinking mind, but does have an ego. It does have things that it definitely wants and things it definitely doesn't want. And, you know, like, you know, so my cat will come over and, "Yeah, it's time to pet me now." And I'm serious about this. You know, and it's like, and feels satisfied when it gets pet and feels almost sad when it doesn't, you know, so it's like there's all the, but our minds are, you know, they're like, you know, turbocharged. And there's a lot of extra stuff available. This is like the deluxe mind. And there's actually more in it than you need. And so there's an advantage. There's an advantage in that we can be talking right now about esoteric stuff and you can understand it. My cat wouldn't understand this. I've tried.
It just is being, though.
It's like, whatever. You see, so that's the advantage. The disadvantage is it is food for a lot of suffering, a lot of thought that has nothing to do with survival. You see?
Right. So the need to follow thought arises from
Just the need to keep the body to survive. So in other words, the initial thought, okay, so you put your hand in the fire and it hurts, and you, oh, I shouldn't do that. Yeah. And so, you know, the thought, and next time you're near fire, you're very careful because you know, you see. So there's a whole judgment, evaluation, thought process that is crucial for the survival of the body.
right.
And then, but because our minds are so elaborate, it gets all messed up with a bunch of other things.
Right. Right.
You say, and then it's like, you know, so-and-so with a mustache was making a fire and burnt me, and now everyone with mustaches sucks, you know. They're all dangerous now. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to point you out. So you see, so it just gets more involved.
Right. So so it just kind of snowballs into this incessant need or urge to pursue thoughts and
Well, that
Projections.
and it wouldn't be so bad except
judgments.
that the misidentification is there. You think you are the body-mind. You're taught that as a child. You're raised with that, and you know it was your job to believe that, and everyone did good. And so because of that, your thoughts and feelings are very, very important. They're priority, and they deserve all of your attention. Even if they're frivolous thoughts, they get all of the attention. Because that's your world, that's what's real.
But that is, would you say mostly or primarily learned? Something that's learned?
It's both.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's both. It is definitely learned, and it's definitely like hardwired in the genes. You know, it's set up that way. It's not irrevocable. It can be. I know it can be. It happens in some cases where that ceases, but it's rare. So, and it's designed to be rare, because if it weren't rare, that would be the end of the species. You see. We just whittle it down.
So weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if we, from an infant, if we were to learn the truth, all of us, then we wouldn't exist in a
Right,
sense. would
right.
we?
Well,
It's so bizarre.
it's like this, the only way that these movies continue in the movie theaters is if people put their money down and go to them
Right.
and enjoy them. Okay? So if everyone were taught, this is, nothing really happens here. All this is colors on a screen and some sound coming out of a speaker. Then people would give up on the movies altogether. And there'd be no more movie. There'd be no more movie theaters. It would all be done.
Yeah.
You see, so a necessary ingredient in this is the involvement with the movie, with the dream. So that, and when that ceases, so does the species. And then some other species will come in. So the dream continues, you see,
Yeah.
in some form.
Huh. So if we all learn from the very beginning that, oneness dwells within us as us, then we would
Diane.
grow up and
I
I
think it would be done.
we'd be done.
And I think it has probably happened in certain societies. You just never hear about them
Right.
because they're gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have in the Jains in India, they built these unbelievable temples. They're the most intricately carved marble temples in the world. They're fantastic. But where are the Jains? You see, the Jains believe they don't even know really what they believed anymore because they're all gone.
There's some still, isn't there?
There may be some new ones.
Our friends
Neighbor Rajul in
Yeah.
California, her mom was.
I don't
and
know.
they wouldn't
Yeah.
wash the dishes because the bacteria, you could kill them.
Oh,
Or
kill,
something,
oh,
the
oh, yeah.
bacteria going down the drain.
Well, that would take care of the species too. Well, the one that I had heard is that Jains were celibate,
Oh,
so that took care of the religion.
That would take care of it.
That was it. I guess you keep getting converts, but eventually, they're all gone. Just all that's left are these fantastic temples. But maybe there's some modern Jains. But they're all headed the same way if they follow the same beliefs. So it's okay, it's just the way it is. And it's part of what keeps this going. It's like that thing that continually turns the reel of the film so that it keeps showing the movie. Without it, it's done. So you see, I feel like in this case, the movie's done. And it won't continue after that. They say there's no more rebirth.
This one.
No more rebirth. Like that's the
Oh.
goal of Hinduism.
Right.
Is, that you reach a place where there's no more rebirth.
yeah.
You see, so that final detachment from it all. Who gets reborn?
So,
But,
Oh.
wait.
well, it seems like in India then they know this more, right?
Yeah,
Do they
yeah.
still, in general, follow their mind as much as the West?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, indeed.
Even though they technically, their religion knows that?
Well, it's just as rare. Okay, except more people are practicing, so it seems to happen more often, but that's only because there's a higher percentage of people looking into it, right? So yeah, it's and it's more the tradition of that area. Yeah. It's okay. Just enjoy whatever's going on, but keep your perspective. You're just a dust speck living on a dust speck. You know, when you're really, really thinking that whatever's going on is a big deal, keep your perspective. You don't have to sweat it.
Could you speak to the significance of being here and now in order to allay that sort of angst that is very common?
Well, you know, that is where everything that is real about this moment is. It is right here in this moment, before your mind gets to touch it. So the thing about this is, you know, I'm talking about all these concepts, but the way to move beyond the concepts is just to simply be in this moment. When the mind is still, usually by accident, then there's nothing but stillness in the world. Nothing but really peace and a sense of complete acceptance. Now, you become aware of it now and then, but it is present always. And you becoming aware of it is nothing more than a booby prize and maybe a trap.
Can you elaborate on that? How can that be?
Well, you think your life is personal, and you think in terms of everything being personal. So when that stillness happens, in fact, in that moment, there's nothing personal about it. Everything just is. And there's just this flat line of being, of peace. Then you take it personally and you say, yes, that's it. Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's where I want to be. And you see, now you're in that trap of thinking that this is for you. In fact, you are in the way. You may become aware of this stillness now and then, but it is always there. And if, by some magical means, the personalization of everything were put on the sidelines, then all that you would notice is the stillness. And that, indeed, would absorb all of your attention until someone called your name, and then you'd have to say what? You know, but then you'd come back to it. You see? And this is the amazing thing of these minds that are like so overkill, is that sense of being, of peace, is a really awesome experience. It's not so awesome to my cat. It's okay, and he hangs out there a lot. But in a human's case, it's pretty wide-ranging because of all the receptors that are there because of this elaborate mind. And it can be experienced in a very deep way. And it also can be contrasted with the other experiences. And then a certain perspective can be gained that a normal animal won't have in such a deep way. So that's all right.
How does that correlate to our being able to make choices in the moment and meditation? So I'd like to, the correlation between meditation practice, the more you get used to being able to be in the state you just described, not being trapped.
Yes.
I think meditation is designed for that. And then making choices or allowing choices. I guess that seems to be an issue.
Well, it's only an issue when you think you have free will.
Mm.
You see?
That's a whole nother.
So,
That's a whole nother.
well, you're talking about making choices, yes? You do the best you can. There's a lot of people, I've known a lot of people that really put everything they had into their spiritual journey and didn't get very far.
Yeah, I'm just talking about choices like being happy or sad.
Oh yeah, if you had that, you know, those are just choosing interrelated opposites. Why not, these are false choices.
Are they really?
Yeah, because you choose to be happy,
Uh-huh.
and then sadness comes, what do you do
Of
then?
course. Then you celebrate that as well.
Well, exactly, then you don't have to choose to be happy or sad.
Right.
You can just be with everything.
But I'm talking about the monkey mind.
Well, you know, the monkey mind is never going to get this.
Right.
And it's never going to get to where you want it to go.
Right.
Okay? So why not just let the monkey mind do what it wants over here?
Because depression, anxiety, movement with lethargy instead of joy and passion.
Well, you understand. That only matters if that's you.
It matters if it's you or you or you.
No. I mean, if you take it personally, and if you apply your desire to it. You see, I
It's
want...
just a desire to be healthy and aware. Is that a desire too? Of course it is.
Yes.
Of course it is.
What I'm saying is, there is a place, okay, there is a place for personal improvement. Okay? And then there is a place where maybe you've improved enough. And then you can just be totally
I'm not
accepting.
talking about improvement as I'm talking about really savoring the juice of life.
What does that mean to you?
Oh, this is right now, because we're doing it right now.
So these are all temporary phenomena
Correct.
because they're all from the point of view of you as an individual and you improving or behaving in a particular way as an individual. You understand? You were never separate from God.
Right.
You could never be separate from God. So manipulating yourself from the point of view of an individual is misconceived.
Is meditation a manipulation?
Yes, of course it is. You're mimicking what's already happening. I'm not saying don't meditate.
Oh yeah, that's my next question.
So
Just throw it all up and.
what you're doing is you're mimicking what's already going on. You are like, okay, I'm going to sit quietly and just be, and hopefully you'll experience a stillness that has always been there.
Yeah, it's never hope. You know, hope is useless to me.
Well, okay, that's good. That's good. But the goal of meditation,
It's not a goal so much.
yes, what is it?
It's the suchness.
Suchness?
Ah,
What does that mean?
you tell me.
I didn't say it.
Well, to me, it's with the laughter and if you want me to use my words to describe it, I'll be happy to.
Well, yeah,
It's
because
the
it's
laughter,
your
the
word.
joy, the expression, the song, the creativity, the life that courses through us. That's the suchness to me. And to you, what does it to you? Does it mean anything to you?
Well, I've never used that word
Do
for
you
it.
know the term tat savamasi?
No, I don't.
You're familiar with the term, the powerful I am that I am?
Yeah?
Would you elucidate on that?
I am that I am?
Yes?
These are all just words for things that are undescribable.
Okay, great.
So that's all right.
But there's zillions of words that try to describe them.
Yes, of course
So
there
I'm
are,
asking
because
your
it takes a
understanding.
zillion,
I'm just
and you
asking
still
for-
can't get it right.
No, never. That's the point.
Everything just is.
And what
And
does that mean?
it just means that all there is complete acceptance for everything, regardless. It doesn't matter if you consider it good or you consider it bad, or you consider it right or wrong, or happy or sad. Everything is the same. It just is.
Okay.
So this is really coming from that place of stillness. Everything just is. Everything. There's no improving it. There's no making it worse. There's no screwing it up. It just is. So if you just can sit there, then everything can be exactly as it is, and peace runs through it all.
Of course.
You see, so in fact, nothing is happening. Those things that you were considering as ups and downs as an individual are nothing. They're just a part of what is.
Of course, I'm basically just how to use this knowledge in our everyday life.
That's a good question. I would say you drum up all the sincerity you can find and apply these words to your every moment and every experience. And then that sense of it just is, that sense of peace will permeate everything. It takes a certain amount of sincerity to pull that off. Now, Ramesh's guru, Nisargadatta, he didn't spend much time with his guru, but he listened very deeply to what he had to say. And when he went home, he saw the truth of his guru's words in everything that was going on. And it was just within 2 or 3 years he fully understood what his guru was talking about, because he had that sincerity. So you take these teachings, the ones that resonate with you, and then you apply them. You apply them in your daily. You apply them in all of your moments. So that's what you can do that would be useful with these teachings. And you know, all these are that I'm giving out are concepts. They have a particular feeling to them. You know, and you may get a sense of what it is I'm talking about. But the truth of it can't be put into words, in fact. But the truth of it can be felt. You can know what it is I'm talking about, even if it can't be put into words. You can feel it. You can be with that. And see what happens.
There was a man that, Hindu man named Shree Aurobindo,
Oh, yes.
Pondicherry, India,
Mhm.
wrote the most incredible book. I've read hundreds of books. It's the most incredible book on the face of the earth as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And it's called The Life Divine. And one of the things that kind of sums up everything he says that human mind is not sufficient to explain existence in the universe. And I believe that totally. And we try to analyze everything, especially in the Western world, and we don't accept anything unless we can analyze it. And I think that's one of our misgivings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the tool of the mind was designed only for applying to the survival of the body. You see, it really has, so in other words, you are dealing with a tool that a dust speck living on a dust speck has. It's not much. It's not much. So there's a level of understanding that is well beyond anything that could be understood here. I'll call it understanding, but it's beyond that. It's well beyond it. Understanding is a very primitive tool. Very primitive. So minds can only understand that which has distinction. So minds can only understand things that have an appearance of differences. Okay? Because minds are designed to navigate this appearance of differences. So if you say that we are indeed everything, that God dwells within you as you, the mind goes, yeah, that's great. So, it's not anything the mind can understand. If you say, we are all the same, we all come from the same place, and the mind goes, well, wait a minute, there's her, and there's him, and there's this one's nice, and this one sucks, and wait a minute, okay? That's what the mind's designed to see. The mind's not designed to know oneness. The mind's only designed to know separation. So you're using the wrong tool to understand oneness. That's not the correct tool. And so how do you get out of it when you've identified yourself with that tool? And what I say is it's time to disidentify. Disidentify. You are not this body-mind. There's no way, if you're this body-mind, then what? Then you're nothing. This is ridiculous. You're a little dream character, a dust speck living on a dust speck. It's like, what's the point of even understanding anything then? So when you want to know the truth, you have to move beyond thinking of yourself as separate in any way. And when that happens, when you have this sense of unicity with everything, when you merge with everything just is, instead of this one's this way and that one's that way, and this one's good and this one's bad and this one I like, this one I don't, when everything just falls in to the realm of it just is, and there's just stillness around it and equality around everything, then there's no more attachment to yourself as an individual. And then your viewpoint changes. The individual stuff is still going on as long as there's a body, but it's got nothing to do with you. And then there's no sense of, oh, what happens when I die? Because you could never die. The only thing that could die is a body. A body dies. A body is born. You're not that. You're everything. So what's the point? So the life just goes on until it doesn't. But you remain the same. You can never change. So change is the perspective, and the personal suffering becomes something that is no longer personal. It just doesn't, it's just what it is. And your place is the same. So Yes. So it's important to know that this cannot be understood with the mind. And you know, all the great spiritual experiences that people have, these free samples, it only happens when the mind accidentally wasn't there. You see? And then there was an opening and you, wow. And then as soon as the me said, wow, then all of a sudden that became an experience that you had instead of an experience that you have. And it's gone because you've entered into the personal again. You see, if the personal couldn't distract all of your attention, then this moment would take all of your attention, and the personal would be over there and might require a little bit of attention now and then, but nothing that distracting.
Ananta.
Yes.
You know, I think we've talked about this a lot before, that it's not really possible to understand this with my mind, but I keep seeing this picture of who Ramesh was, that bodybuilder, that he was so strong, Mr. Atlas almost,
Yeah.
and then after his son died, you know, just how it impacted that the physical and emotional beingness, because you remember you would say that he would go and wail, and then he would just come out and give satsang, and then he'd go back
Yeah.
and wail. And I thought, you know, of all the animals, like the elephants, like even when I'm human, there's no, you know, I don't know, we can't know with our minds who's there in Ramesh's case or in the elephant's case, and yet there seems to be like a bleed through where there's a no personal and a personal at the same time. Because
Mhm.
otherwise, how would there be grief?
Mm-hmm.
Like with an elephant, there's, well, who knows if there's a personality there, maybe there is. But it's so strange because, you know, just so strange.
Well, you see, there's still natural feelings.
Yeah.
And you know, just because the Enlightenment happens, it doesn't mean that from then on everything's happy, happy, joy, joy.
Right.
Life goes on, and people die, and there's great sadness, and there's actually no protection against it, so it's even deeper in some ways.
Because you feel
And there's
that,
great
right?
joy, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
100% everything, but
Yeah.
none of it is taken personally.
Yeah.
So Ramesh never thought he was grieving,
Right.
but he saw there was grieving. Now, you see, when Nisargadatta was dying from cancer, someone said, "It looks like you're in great pain." And Nisargadatta said, "Yes, there is great pain. But there was no I'm in great pain. Just that there was definitely pain."
Yeah.
You see, so it still goes on. It's just no longer personal.
It's such an odd thing, you know, to have this body, and there's paining. The body is paining.
Yeah.
But if you're not involved in it, like you said, it's just sensation.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still, you could still,
But it's still very intense. It can
well, yes, it's just as intense, but not for you. You see, everything's still happening. So when I was with Ramesh, I would crack a joke and he'd full on laugh. He would just 100%. You see?
Yeah.
So when something else happened, it was 100% too. You see, that's all. You just 100% whatever it is, but there's no one identified
Yeah.
with any of it. So none of it is taken personally. But it doesn't mean it doesn't go on. You see, so it's not really strange.
I think it's some concept, that the humanness disappeared, but actually the humanness keeps humannessing. There's just no identification with the humanness.
Right, but still, the body is still there, the mind is still there. I mean, Ramesh was very sharp, and he had a good sense of humor too. And it was like all that was boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It continued to go on. So that's fine. But no one was identified with Ramesh. No one thought he was that person. But he knew to answer to his name. You see? So there were aspects of the me that were like present, but no one identified.
Yeah.
That's all. So it's like people, gurus get sick and die. It happens. And just before Ramesh went, his wife went. I didn't think he'd be long for this world after that.
Yeah.
Then he went. You see, so still there, like that, you could claim it was whatever. But no one took any of it personally. Mm. And so I heard Ramesh say, someone asked him about Nisargadatta dying, and he said, my guru was never born. How could he die? You see. So there was not even the personalization of his guru.
Yeah.
You see? None of it. It's all what it is. And no one's identified with any of it. So it's the same exact thing without that personal quality to it.
Yeah.
And that personal quality is what makes it real to you. You see? And that's correct, because once the personal quality is gone, it no longer seems real to you. So it doesn't have the same impact, even if it has a very strong emotional impact. That's how you could be fully wailing in grief and then just give a talk. No problem. No problem. Like it was gone. And then you come back and wail until that was done. You see?
Like a baby.
Yeah. More the natural state
Yeah.
before the ego really took hold. Yes.
So, and just using Ramesh as an example, so, I mean, I can see how he would, experience that grief, or maybe anger, or fear, like a primary emotion. But would he, or even in your case, wouldn't necessarily experience more secondary type emotions like pride or guilt?
Oh no, that wouldn't arise.
That doesn't arise. No.
That wouldn't arise because that requires a sense of identification
Right.
with action.
Right.
So in other words, in order for you to feel pride, you have to feel you did something. In order for you to feel guilt, you have to feel you actually did something.
Right.
You see, so without that sense of I did it, those things won't arise. They're secondary.
Yeah.
And that's the realm of suffering that I talk about.
Yeah.
You see, so. Yeah, that doesn't come up. And you see that this is where it's a lot less burdensome. You don't realize it when you're in the middle of it, but this sense that you have that you did something, it is very burdensome. And it creates this energy we call karma. You see, then you think you did something and it's good karma. You think you did something wrong, that's bad karma. And now you've got this burden of karmas. And karma is a strong energy in this plane. It's so strong that the karmas that you put out there can easily outlive you. And someone else gets stuck with them.
How do you mean?
How do you know that, though, I guess?
Because you hear people and they recount, like they remember the karmas of another person who lived, the situations, they remember every detail, everything. A child remembers someone who was in the World War and crashed a plane or something, and it's like they have all this, they soaked it in. It wasn't them, they soaked it in. I mean, this is my theory because I don't think you are who you think you are now. So I don't think whatever they thought they, but it survived the lifetime. It survived all the way to the year 2000 from the Second World War. It outlived that person. The karma's still there, somehow in the ethers. And then some child who's just a karma sponge picks it up, and those karmas help develop particular personality traits and everything else, and you can identify with that if you want, but
But there must be an awful lot of karma in the ethers, isn't there?
well, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there
That's
is.
the case.
Well, there's yes, and it continues. You see, I don't know how long karmas last. I don't think forever, but they last for some time. They do have an effect within this realm
Right.
of the dream. Yeah. Almost like when you have a reoccurring dream. So, this is all a little theoretical, but it's just the way I look at it.
So just staying with the theme of karma, so if you create good karma, the problem with that is because it has an opposite?
Well, because it's karma. Karma is a burden. So what happens is if you do something really good, hey, good for you. Then you start feeling good about yourself. And all that is more ego, isn't it?
Right.
So
you set yourself up, in other words.
you could,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter, it's just stronger ego. It's a stronger sense of identification with something separate from God. You see, so good karma, bad karma, same. One makes you feel shitty, one makes you feel good. But that doesn't mean one's good and one's shitty. They're just the same thing. That's why I say, for me, everything's the same. Everything just is.
Yeah. So whether it's good or bad, what you're saying is it just strengthens the misidentification.
Exactly. All it does is add more force to that.
Right.
And that's what karmas do. They make it seem, and so you have someone who's born into someone else's karmas, so to speak, and then they think, well, those are my karmas now.
Can
So
you
now
give
they
an
have
example
more.
of what you mean?
No, it's just crazy talk, really. All I'm doing is, this is just my way of looking at karma, okay? You understand, within the illusion there's certain rules and certain energies that apply. An astrologer can tell you some of them, depending on how many planets they got. They might not have enough, who knows? Oh, there's this one we haven't discovered yet. But you know, they work it out, and if they're really good, they can tell you your personality, they can tell you all these things that you were born into. So there are certain energies,
Yeah.
then there's karmas as part of those energies that a good astrologer can read, you see, and so there are, and where did those karmas come from? Well, they came from past actions. And if you're a baby, you don't have any past actions. So you take on.
But your past lives. If you
Well,
live
yeah,
them-
if you want to, I don't think you have this life, so I don't think you had a past life. There could have been a past life someone else thought they had, and that created karma. And then you're born, and the way it's set up is like you're a blank CD. We got to put some scratches in there. Otherwise, you're just going to be a zombie. So they fill it up, and to make you a whole person.
Right.
You know, with different karmas that you were born into, different ones you picked up along the way. And then it all builds up and oh look, there's Andrea.
I mean,
Yes.
from other teachers in the past, such as yourself, one of them specifically talked about this subject, and his theory was, which I don't know if you agree with or not, he said the law of grace is greater than the law of karma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally think that's true myself, but
Well-
I think it's extenuating circumstances, of course.
Yeah, it's true. It's true that grace is stronger than anything. But whether it happens or not, who knows? But that's true. Certainly. But, I have this particular way. It's just just another concept. That's why I say it's just playing around with it so that, because it's a particular way of understanding all this. And I was at a workshop once. It was a long one, like for, a month. And there were people working on issues from past lives. And it was like, Jesus, don't you have enough issues now? When does this end? It's like, all right, so now I got to deal with Egypt. Oh, Jesus. and it just goes on forever. So it's like, so I'm just trying, and the idea that you're identified with yourself, and now you have to deal with previous identifications on top of it, and just cut the thing off. It's like you never had an existence separate from God. I'm sorry. You believed you did for a little while, but that was just because you were at the movies enjoying the show. When the movie was over, you just went right back home, and everyone lived happily ever after. So it's okay. There's just a forgetfulness that happens. Okay? And my gurus, I always felt they were just reminding me of something I already knew. I always felt that. So that's all that's going on here, is a reminder. It's just a reminder of home. So, that's fine. Yes.
One of Yogananda's disciples, Swami Kriyananda, he said that it's like you need to create a karma buster for all the many, many lives that you've had before to get to this point where you just don't have any sort of stuff bringing you back to this learning plane. But I don't know how to bust out that karma.
Well, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's too much to be looking at all the shit that you got to work out from previous lives.
Right.
Just work it out in this life.
Just work out.
If you no longer think that you have an existence separate from God, if you no longer think that you are your thoughts and feelings and this body, then guess what? All the other karmas are in the same position.
Wow.
They're separate. It's all gone. It's all gone. You see, if you separate, if you know that you are the oneness that is everything, then all the other senses of separation are gone. Or if they're there, they're just not yours. They're not attached to you any longer. You don't identify with them. When you identify with yourself as an individual, you attract a lot of flies. You see? So you're attracting like energy to yourself.
Yeah.
And that causes more suffering. So try it that way. It's a lot easier. I'm telling you, it's too much to deal with all the lifetimes and all the different aspects and things you don't even know about. I mean, just cut it all off. It's like, know that you are not what you think and feel. There are thoughts and feelings, but that is not who you are. It couldn't be. It's impossible. I mean, really, it's that clear. When it's that clear, then none of this is going to affect you in the same way. It doesn't mean you won't have feelings. It doesn't mean you'll never experience sadness. It just means that you won't personalize any of that anymore. It'll go on without you feeling that it's you. You see? And that takes the burden off. And also what that does is it shuts down the karma factory. No more karmas are created. So there's no more burden added through action. Actions still happen, but no one has the burden of thinking they did it. No one has the burden of the karmas created. In fact, according to yogic scriptures, no karmas are created if there's not a me thinking they did it. You see? So I like that belief system, I'll keep it. But all it is a belief system, you see. And these are just basically comfort concepts to make you feel more comfortable, and that's fine. You might as well feel more comfortable. But nothing that an individual, a little dust speck living on a dust speck, nothing that a dust speck believes means anything. Sorry.
So not if one is to notice that you're trying to avoid pain, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, or you're trying to avoid disappointment, what do you suggest? Like, what's the recommendation? Just to allow it to happen and accept it as it is?
Yeah, you see, for you to lift a finger only strengthens the me. So the best you can do is see what's going on and witness it and see how it works. See how it feels, what the results are, and don't do anything to make it better or worse. Even though you're taking action to avoid pain, go, oh, look at that. Look what's going on. And see how it works in your life. See,
What do you mean by that? See how it works?
well, in other words, are you successful? For how long? Do you, is this the way you want your life to run? Just kind of watch it and see the results and reap the results in a very conscious way. You know, not in such a sleepy way where you're just kind of doing it unconsciously. And it's a futile thing, you see, and I think life will teach you that you can try and avoid certain feelings as much as you like, and eventually they're going to get you.
Right.
You see, and then you're going to say, geez, I should have done that better. And there's all kinds of things that arise from that. Just watch it, how it works. And you see this me character does what it wants to do. And why should you get involved? It can do whatever the hell it wants. Let it just go and do its thing and try and avoid pain and succeed and fail. And you know what? Who cares?
So is it enough to just love yourself, accept yourself for wanting to avoid rejection or disappointment?
Well, it beats the alternative.
Yeah.
Why not love yourself for every fucking thing? Everything. Regardless, everything. Every single molecule. You see? And then it's no longer an issue. It's not a problem. And when you're involved with it, it becomes a real force. But when you're detached from it and you're just watching it, it doesn't have the driver anymore. And so it loses its energy. It doesn't have
Right, I
that.
understand.
You see?
But if it's difficult to just detach, like some things just have a much stronger grip.
Oh, absolutely, they
So-
do. So notice how that is.
Just to be aware of that, notice it.
Notice that.
Be with it.
So
Of course, ideally you want to be detached from it, but that doesn't necessarily happen right away.
hey, you know, ideal is wonderful for ideal situations, but they're not all ideal. So sometimes, I don't know if it's the moon cycle or what, you know, I'll have a continued thought will go on. You know, it kind of like involved with the thought, and it's rare, and I always go, oh look, there's involvement. You know, and usually that just stops it, you see, it's done. But no one says, oh my God, what am I doing? Oh, you know, it's like, you just notice what's going on.
Yeah.
And that takes care of it. You see, if it's done without attachment, if it's done without judgment, beyond just acceptance. If everything is held in the same acceptance, then there are no more problems. Even things that are problems are just not a problem. Even things that you're doing that are not ideal are not a problem, because you're fully accepting them. The non-acceptance and judgment of your behavior helps drive it and creates a stronger energy that's more compelling. You can have a compelling energy that you get totally involved with, and if you just go, oh look, there's involvement, without trying to change it, it takes the oomph out of it. So it's not as strong. It may still be strong, because certain things have strong karmas behind them, and they have a strong energy that does draw a lot of attention, and that's just the nature of it. And it will continue until it stops. And if you don't care, if it never stops, then it's never going to be a problem. But if you want it to stop, if you want it to go away, then it's going to be a problem for you. You see? Unless it just happens to go away. But then it'll come back. So just just love everything. And by love I mean accept. Unconditionally accept everything. So if there's deep involvement, unconditionally accept that. Don't try and make it better. It's deep involvement time. Fine. Just let that be as it is. Probably like everything else, it'll pass eventually. So far, everything has. So it won't be forever. Maybe a year or two. So just be at peace with yourself as you are, instead of trying to make the improvements and trying to align yourself more with what you know is correct spiritually. Be as incorrect as you are, and just align yourself with that as that in full acceptance. Full acceptance. There isn't a single one of these guys up here that didn't have what we would call character flaws. That none of them operated with a full psychological deck. They all had issues. Some more obvious than others. In some areas more obvious than others. But you know what? None of them had issues with any of it. It was fully accepted. It wasn't even noticed. They didn't care. They didn't care. It was fine. Baba never judged himself for throwing pots and pans in the kitchen. Didn't bother him at all. He didn't think he needed to fix that behavior. He didn't think it was broken. He didn't even think he did it. Just a bunch of stuff that happens. You see? So if he can get away with that, you can get away with all kinds of shit. So just let yourself be exactly as you are and exactly as you're not. Forget about the spiritual ideals, because who's going to live up to them? I'm not. No one is. You see? So, fine. Take it as it comes. Yes?
What about desireless action?
What about desireless action?
Well, they say it's best to have action with a desire. It's just, if you want to be that clear channel,
Well, yes, it would be ideal. It would be ideal. But it doesn't always happen like that. But when it does, that's fine. That takes a lot of this this burden out of it, if it can be done. When it can be done. Yes. Yeah,
Well, it can be, right? So some action, depending on how it's done, have different effects. There's here's a hungry person. I'm going to feed that person. There's karma involved. There's a sense of doership. I'm going to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, oh, there's a hungry person, here's food. There's no karma,
Right.
there's no... You're still doing the next right thing, but you're just not owning it. You're just... because
Yeah.
it's there.
There you go. See, he knows this. So it helps to get the me out of everything when you can. But you see, the problem is that it's usually the me trying to get the me out of stuff. So it's okay though if oftentimes an action just spontaneously arises without that personal desire, you see, and that's ideal when it happens. And when it doesn't happen, you can just notice it. You can notice what it is, you can notice the effects, you can see how those strings are involved in it and how it develops a stickiness that is not clean anymore. That's all. And when you see that, then you might want to clean it up a little, if you can. If you can, but that's all a me process. So really what you're looking at is symptomatic stuff. It's symptomatic of personal identification. That's all. So if you just tackle this personal identification thing, if the I am is just that, I am, and there's just a sense of unicity, and that's primary, then all this symptomatic stuff starts fading. It doesn't come up as often. Sometimes it comes up, but not as often. And it's not as big a deal when it does. You see? So there's all kinds of side effects to this personal identification, and none of them are that good. They're not that pleasant, you see. They all create more complication. So when the disidentification is there, problem solved. Okay? Then it's so it's okay, you can work with symptoms to a degree, but understand the me trying to improve the me creates a stronger me. So be careful.
It's like the me trying to detach from an attachment.
Yes. I know.
Kind of makes it stronger.
As if you could do it.
Right.
As if you could do it. You don't have to try very hard to be who you already are. You only have to try really hard to be who you're not. Because you already are who you are. And any effort toward that is an effort away from that. So it's a matter of recognizing that which you are. Then that which you are not fades into the background and problem solved. All these various problems that arise.